right, so we have two submissions. We have Megan's and Ayana's. And Megan, you turned in 4 images for positive and negative space. I'm going to go through those and tell you which image I think is the strongest for positive and negative space. So here you have the dog and the grass in the background. Here you have your subject on a swing, and then the house and the grass is the background. Here you have your cat with the grass in the background, and here you have two cats out in the yard, and they're the positive space, and the surroundings are the negative space. To really simplify this, this would be the clearest example of positive and negative space. You have the cat being the positive space, and then everything surrounding it is the negative space. If you take this image apart, you could start to say like the grass is the positive space and then the darker areas in the background are negative space. But since you have a clear subject here, being the cat, that's your positive space. And then everything else ends up being the negative space for the image. And we'll come back to this image for size and scale. Here, you're starting to move around, right? You're starting to make that cat in the foreground look larger than the cat in the background, and that's what we're looking for size and scale. Again, here, same sort of thing, but it's not pushing it really that far. This image actually works pretty well for size and scale, and I wouldn't expect it to because the cat isn't that far away from your feet. But because you're using a wide angle lens, 18 millimeters, we start to see that this cat looks really large and your feet look really small. So that is a good example of size and scale. And then this isn't really giving us any sense of size and scale. Now this image actually ends up being your best image for size and scale. And that's because you're getting low, you're getting on level with the cat. And the cat now, if we were to move the cat up in space, is as large as this fence. So the cat's looking really large and the fence is looking really small. Again, you've exploited this because you're using a really wide angle lens. If we look at the cat in relationship to the tree, the cat's like up to here on the tree, right? So the cat looks really large because you've gotten low and you've made it appear to be taller, and then you've used that wide angle lens and you've set it up with the background further away and smaller because you're so close to your cat in your angle of view that we get this challenge of the size and scale. So this actually ends up being your best image for both positive and negative space and size and scale. If we were to look at your other images for positive and negative space, this could work really well for positive and negative space, where you have the cat and your feet as positive space and everything else is your negative space. So these are the two strongest images for both assignments. I do notice in this image that you're getting a little bit of a sun flare. So for that, you just need to make sure you're not allowing the light to come into your lens, like directly into your lens, because then it bounces around and that gives this foggy sort of view in the background. But other than that, I didn't notice any technical errors with these images, so that's really positive to see. You might be getting a little blown out here actually, or a lot blown out here. So that would be something that would be a technical error. Yeah, nice job with that. All right, and then we have Ayana's images. And we have these are all for positive and negative space. And you have, I think you said your uncle as positive space, and then the background is negative space. But this is pretty complicated. There's a lot going on in this image. This image as well, a lot's going on. So positive and negative space, it gets really messy here. But here, as you start to simplify the image more, here we have a clear positive space and negative space being your uncle, being in the lighter colors in the shadowed areas, but he still stands out as a positive space. And then we can see all of the greenery around as the negative space. Same here. It would be great if there was a little bit more light on him so that he popped out of there a little bit more. Like we see here, I think one of these is your dad and one is your uncle, but we have this guy in a bright white shirt. So he really pops out from the background. But as we try to analyze the positive and negative space, it gets complicated because this house back here and these cars back here hold a lot of importance. This fence, the cinder block fence, is coming out as more positive space instead of negative space. So to understand this topic, I think it's best to simplify your images and have a clear subject and background, and that would be your positive and negative space.